Hello, my name is Jeremiah Telemontis, and welcome to the Red Team OPSEC podcast, where we cover all things physical red team operations, social engineering, and penetration testing. This podcast is supported by Red Team Security Training, a premier provider of live instructor-led, online, pre-recorded, and classroom-based training on topics like physical red team operations and social engineering. Visit redteamsecuritytraining.com for more information. So thanks for listening in today. If this is your first time listening in, I recommend taking a quick listen to episode 1, where I briefly cover physical red teaming, and it may help help provide a little background on what this podcast is really about. Well, welcome to episode 2, titled Breaking into Physical Red Teaming. See what I did there with the breaking of, Anyway, today I'd like to answer the number one question I get asked the most, at least it seems like. And that is, how do I start a career in physical penetration testing, aka physical red team operations? So if this sounds like something you're interested in, please stick around and have a listen. As some of you know, I am the founder and former CEO of Red Team Security. And over the past decade, one of the most questions I get asked, probably the number one question is, I have a background in X. How do I get into physical red teaming? And I always like to say, a more precise answer depends on a lot of factors specific to that individual. But today, I'm going to do my best to offer a more generalized approach. And I think I'm going to try and break it down into 2 primary categories, pretty simple way. Technical and non-technical. All right, so I'm going to give it a try. Here we go. So starting with the technical background, this is a person that may have an experience or background in coding. He or she may be help desk related or some kind of technology savvy person, right? So computers, the foundation and principles of information security are no stranger. They may not be well versed. They may not be CISSP certified or have any pen testing certifications. This person is technically savvy, but they are not physical security savvy. All right. So I'm going to break it down into 3 primary categories. I'm going to try and do this in order. Okay, so starting with the first category, which will be penetration testing. That is technical penetration testing. The second one will be social engineering, and the third will be physical security. Okay, so this is for a technical savvy person who wants to break into the physical red teaming career field. All right, so in order. I like to break it down into books, training, and any additional resources. So under the category of penetration testing, I'd like to recommend the book titled The Basics of Hacking and Penetration Testing. Okay? It's a foundational book that'll introduce topics of pen testing, different varied disciplines within penetration testing. And then moving on, another great book is Penetration Testing by Georgia Weidman. It's been out there for a long time. There are many variations and editions of that. I suggest getting the latest one. A great book on establishing a little bit more, goes into a little bit more of the weeds, and will be a great second resource and book for you. The third one is going to dig a little deeper into some of the technical aspects. This one's titled Kali Linux Revealed. So Kali Linux is a Linux distribution that many pen testers use. I've used it for many years, back before it was even called Kali Linux. I think it was Backtrack. But Kali Linux is a very popular set of tools. Definitely this book will be very valuable to you. Again, it's more advanced. Now I'd like to move on to training. The first training I'd like to recommend is Penetration Testing Fundamentals And you'll find that on udemy.com, udemy.com. And again, the training is titled Penetration Testing Fundamentals. I've heard great things about it. I've not taken it myself, but it's something I highly recommend that folks kind of dig into. The next one is definitely going to be advanced, and there's a certification option with this one. But I recommend a good study before you consider taking this, and it's called Penetration Testing with Kali, or Pen Testing with Kali. It's provided by a company called Offensive Security. This organization also compiles and manages the Kali Linux distribution. Again, this is something you're going to want to consider taking when you feel very comfortable. There's a certification option with this one. If you haven't been doing pen testing and it's brand new to you, you may want to maybe hold off on the training, or the certification attempt. This is going to teach you a lot, but the OSCP, as it's called, is a difficult exam to take. Feel free to go for it, but just be warned, it's pretty intense. Okay, so moving on, additional resource I'd like to recommend for those in the technical background under the subheading penetration testing is really YouTube. YouTube is a great source for looking for all sorts of information regarding pen testing. So oodles and oodles of information you'll find there, and YouTube is your friend. I'm sure there are other resources. If you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to make comments, and how about others that are in your shoes or maybe have once been in your shoes looking for additional resources. All right, the second category under the technical background person is first resource is a book, The Art of Deception by Kevin Mitnick. Awesome book, a very good read, read it myself, a great book to start out with. Second book, The Social Engineer's Playbook by me, of course. Just kidding. That's on Amazon. This book is a great introduction. You'll get some of that intro from Kevin's book. From mine, you'll kind of get an idea of what some of the testing kind of looks like and how some of the deception happens. The third book is a social engineering book by Chris Hadnagy. You'll find several, I guess a couple of them now, if two, if not three, by Chris. All of them are great. I suggest the older one for a good overview. All great books. All of them I suggest for getting into the field of social engineering. The training resources I recommend here is I've got a training program put together called the Social Engineering Expert by me, and you'll find that on redteamsecuritytraining.com. Again, the Social Engineering Expert. In that training, you'll find a lot of information about the foundations of putting together a pretty solid social engineering campaign, right? It's not all about email and phishing. It's so much more than that. And I go into great detail on how to kind of craft those and then, move forward with your campaign. The one thing that I don't get into purposefully is tools. There are a lot of tools for social engineering. There's the Social Engineer's Toolkit, which is widely used. There are many, many other tools that enable a really good and comprehensive social engineering campaign. For that, my resource there is go to YouTube. You'll find so many videos from folks explaining how to do this or that in the Social Engineer's Toolkit that also happens to be on Kali Linux. And you'll find other tools on there as well. So don't pay for it. Just, the foundation stuff you really need to focus on. Once you're familiar with the principles and tactics, go to YouTube for how to use those tools and discover those. The third one is physical security, right? So this is the last one of the technical background. The book there, I've got a book called The Physical Red Team Operations. This is one of the first books, the only books to really sort of introduce this framework for carrying out physical red team operations. It's available on Amazon. The second book I'd recommend, and by the way, there aren't many books on this. The only others between the one I'm going to explain next and the one that I wrote just a few months ago are mostly textbooks, and you'll see that most of them are $60, $70, and to which I can't really comment on the accuracy or completeness of those since I haven't read them myself. But you may want to, if you're lucky, take a chance. Although I would caution on using textbooks as a resource for something real world that's very new and emerging. But anyway, the next book I'd like to say is the Unauthorized Access by Will Alsop. He has another book as well, I believe, on advanced pen testing. But this book is, it's fairly dated. It's, I believe, in the early 2000s or 2010 thereafter. So it's got some age to it, but it is a great book for introducing physical security. So the book by Will is a good one to have in your library. The next three things are mostly in the training avenue. So the first one is Physical Red Team Operations Training by me. Again, that's at Red Team Security Training. I deliver it online, in the classroom, live and online, and pre-recorded. So there are very many different variations and mediums to take it, but that's one aspect you may find as a good resource. The other one is Black Hat. So Black Hat's the yearly training event in Las Vegas, or I should say Black Hat is the yearly security conference that many of us go to. Black Hat Trainings is a component of Black Hat Conference where they offer really awesome options for training. So there have been some that have, that are titled Physical Security Training or Physical Pen Testing Training. The only thing I'd like to caution there is that the ones that I've seen, almost all of them almost always focus only on lockpicking. Lockpicking is a component of physical security and any sort of physical red team operation. In the field, lockpicking is something we tend to do at a last-ditch effort because lockpicking is not very covert. It's loud, and it's unpredictable, and it takes time. If you're a newbie or moderately skilled, so I would caution those to take a look at the content. Make sure it's not just a lockpicking class, but certainly keep an eye out for any Black Hat trainings that offer full-on physical security training. The last one is a bit of a gotcha. I've taken military and law enforcement training, and if possible, you may qualify for these as well. There often are many hoops to jump through if you're a civilian, and so I'd caution those. The training that I take is usually so I'm in the Minneapolis area. There aren't that many around here, but in the Colorado Springs area and in somewhere, in most cases, in most locations where there's a base nearby, you'll find trainers that will offer this kind of training. It's usually called CMOE, or Covert Methods of Entry, or also called surreptitious entry. So if you can find those, and if you qualify, or maybe they're willing to take a chance on you as a civilian, you may be able to get that kind of training. It's quite helpful. The only thing I would caution there is the training that I've taken is far leaning towards the military. In other words, we're kicking down doors. We are not covert in every scenario, and in those situations too, we're usually armed, and of course that doesn't apply to physical red team testing. So just kind of take note of those classes and those training sessions, so it doesn't lean too far to the military. For now, I think that really is the kind of concludes the technical aspect of any individual that have some level of technical background, focusing on the penetration testing aspect, those resources and training for social engineering as well, and then the ones I just mentioned for physical security. So before I move on, I'd like to kind of take a quick break and move on. Before we move on to the non-technical background, let's take a quick break. Since 2008, Red Team Security has been the preferred security company for pen testing, red teaming, and social engineering. Through their online portal, Red Team clients experience pen testing in real time and participate as much or as little as they like. Red Team's pen testing isn't time-boxed, and their engineers reveal the true health of the overall network. As always, Red Team's retesting on remediated vulnerabilities remains completely free. There's no time limit on that either. As the founder of Red Team, I'm proud of the work they do, and I recommend them for your next pen test, red team, or social engineering engagement. You can reach them at info@redteamsecure.com. That's info@redteamsecure.com. All right, moving back into the technical, to the non-technical background. Okay, so now we're switching gears from an individual that does not have a technical background. Now, these recommendations I'm going to give is they're a little bit more in depth, right? We've got to start at some fundamentals here. Okay, and I kind of separated out this plan into 5 different categories. First one we'll start with is information technology fundamentals. The second one is information security fundamentals. The next one is social engineering. Fourth one is penetration testing, and then finally physical security. All right, so diving first into the plan for somebody who wants to break into physical red team operations but doesn't have a technical background. Under information technology fundamentals, the resource I'm going to suggest is the CompTIA IT Fundamentals book. It's a great book. Again, very basic. If this person does not have a substantial background in IT, computers, and things of that nature, I highly recommend that one. The next one I'm going to recommend is the CompTIA A+ study guide. Now, the A+ is a certification, but it's more along the lines of computers and the systems and the different components that make up computers themselves. It's a good fundamental understanding to have, and I think that's worthwhile for someone to undertake. The training I'm going to suggest is the CompTIA IT Fundamentals certification, otherwise known as the ITF+. The next training opportunity would be the CompTIA Security Plus cert training. And additionally, I would recommend anyone who does not have a solid IT technology background is to search for these kind of fundamental courses on udemy.com. That's udemy.com. A long route for someone who's considering a move into physical red teaming may consider a 2-year college program in IT networking. Although I wouldn't always recommend that, but that is certainly a route that someone can certainly take. All right. So moving on to information security fundamentals. The first one, the book, The Basics of Information Security by Jason Andrus. A great book, lays out the basics of information security principles and theory. A great one to start with. Second one, kind of going back to another recommendation in the information technology fundamentals, is the CompTIA Security Plus study guide. Great. And then to go along with that, the Security Plus training or the CERT attempt. Okay. Additionally, for this field, you could take the route of, looking toward getting a CISSP certification, which is kind of a standard certification, but I don't think that it's quite necessary. You do have to have at least 3 to 5 years working in the field before you can sit for that exam. You may want to take another route. A longer route may be similarly a 2-year program in the IT security field. But as an additional research, I would highly recommend looking for fundamental courses on udemy.com for security fundamentals. All right. The next one I'd like to get into is social engineering. The first book I'd like to recommend is The Art of Deception by Kevin Mitnick. Awesome book. Hands down, you'll be pleased with it. Second book is the one I wrote called The Social Engineer's Playbook. That's I made mention of that one before, a good one to have. Again, in the social engineering field, you'll see the social engineering book by Chris Hadnagy. Again, the first one in his series of social engineering books is a great one to have. Very similarly, on the training recommendation, Social Engineering Training Expert by me, and you'll find that on redteamsecuritytraining.com. YouTube, again, for those tools, Social Engineers Toolkit, you name it, a whole bunch of tools out there. Leverage YouTube. You don't have to pay for anything. Just go out there and look for how to use them and where to use them and all those good stuff. Optionally, again, search for how-to courses, in the social engineering tools on Udemy and other places. Google, right? The next one on penetration testing, would be a book, The Basics of Hacking and Penetration Testing. This will give you a good foundation of exactly what is penetration testing, the different disciplines therefore contained within that. Again, another recommendation for pen testing by Georgia Weidman, the book Kali Linux Revealed, and then Penetration Testing Fundamentals by Udemy. Again, the pen testing by Kali, or pen testing with Kali by Offensive Security, and leveraging YouTube for additional resources relating to penetration testing, specifically Kali. Finally, physical security. Again, the book that I wrote, the Physical Red Team Operations book, Unauthorized Access by Will Alsop. The training that my team provides, Physical Red Team Operations, on redteamsecuritytraining.com. And Black Hat trainings I mentioned before. Keep an eye out for any of those sort of physical security training programs that are out there, those sessions. Make sure they're not only focused on lockpicking. Many of them are. Far too many of them are, I should say. Make sure it's more comprehensive than that. It's not just a book on lockpicking or something of that nature, or a training on lockpicking. Next one, as I mentioned before, any sort of military or law enforcement training you could get a pass or a waiver for. I've done this kind of stuff in the past. Gone to the bureau, the bureau for getting a history of my tickets and history of my background, criminal background check. I've had to jump through some hoops there, but if you can find one that's in your area, particularly near military bases, you can get lucky and find some covert methods of entry training or surreptitious entry, anything of that nature. Some of them will have lockpicking, stealth kind of covert lockpicking as well. So I wish you all the luck there. Again, hopefully this was helpful to you. How to break into the wonderful world of physical red teaming. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas for future topics for this podcast, please let me know. Reach out to me. I can be reached at contact@redteamsecuritytraining.com. That's contact@redteamsecuritytraining.com. Please give me an idea of what you want to hear, and we'll certainly take that into account. I hope you have a great day. Please tune in, keep listening, subscribe, like, thumbs up, whatever you got to do. Share with your colleagues. Got some great feedback so far, so hope to see you again next week, and we'll talk to you soon.